Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How are
Very
you?
good, thank you.
I'm doing well. So with a show like this, it is really fun to kind of explore all these different elements of, leaping into someone else's life. But in this episode in particular, your dynamic as a father and daughter is fascinating because we don't get to see them actually interact with each other. The emotions are still there as this daughter's looking at a younger version of his father and of her father, and he's looking at or remembering the daughter that he knows at that timeline. And so for both of you, what was kind of the struggle in making that relationship so real, even though you're not in scenes together and it is just two different timelines essentially coming together?
It's a good question. Thinking. I think one of the challenges for me was to put her above self, protection of Addison above my own joy, um, which is it's not the way to do it. It is a way to do it. Like I think there's a more balanced way to achieve protecting your children from your past or from a parent's you know stuff. Um, but you know that struggle, that magnetic pull between those two opposites of like wanting to protect her but wanting to be with her and share her and tell her how I feel and express how I feel. But if I express how I feel, then she'll be devastated when she knows about my mistakes or that I'm not perfect. And that interplay is like that's where I try to live in a scene like that.
Yeah, and I think Caitlin, what's really great about Addison's journey is I think back to the episode where where I think her name was Gia, and she was a trans girl on a basketball team who just wanted to play, and getting to see Addison kind of come to terms with things that had happened in her own life throughout that, and now getting this episode, which is about Addison's family, is really cool to kind of see the trajectory that the character takes throughout other people's story and now getting her own time.
Mm, mm.
And so for you as an actor, what is kind of the fun of getting to see that? Because she's kind of just Ben's guide, but she's growing and changing with each new episode, and it's really kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, what a treat, right? Like that's what I think is so special about this iteration in particular is that and as the season will go on and as we go to season 2, everybody on this team gets to grow, including Ben, through what has happened. I mean, it was a trauma, right? It was traumatic when Ben did what he did, but like most traumas, it then allowed and called to it great moments of growth for all of the characters. And I love that the writers are really taking the opportunity and giving us as actors these bigger journeys to go on that isn't just so focused on Ben himself, and using the leaps as ways for all of us to grow and learn things. I mean, obviously Ian just learned a big old thing about themselves. And now I get the, sacred opportunity to meet a parent as an adult. And instead of looking up and looking at all these things that you might have done wrong and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, looking at them as an equal, knowing how hard life is and how hard it is to navigate things, especially when you're not ready to do it yet. And just having that moment of understanding and releasing of whatever you were holding on to. I mean, it was wonderfully written and a treat to act.
Yeah, and I think that this episode in particular so kind of like hits because it's like you can tell that she loved her dad even though she is very angry at him for like leaving and all of that kind of stuff, in the way that she's interacting with the younger version of him and how she's telling Ben this story. It's like she remembers all of these things because she clearly still loved him even though she had that kind of tumultuous relationship. Which what does make the one scene where she's talking to him even though like it doesn't seem like he can see, but then responds to her almost very touching. And so for you both, like obviously Brandon, your character can't see her, but it is still like there's that emotional connection. So for his actors, what did you kind of do in like that specific scene into making sure like those emotions were there, but technically she's not in the scene, like she's not just talking to him?
I mean, to a degree, we're playing, right?
Yeah.
We're creating a moment. Though it's, I mean, absolutely, I allow for the possibility that if Augustine was really having that moment, if the events of this episode play out as they play out at the end, and he makes the decisions he makes in the episode, which could potentially, shift his future, maybe he is able to project emotionally into the future to a version of his daughter, or just feel the impacts of that future moment in the present. And that, too much time to try to figure that out. But anyway, there's a way that can happen, that he feels that emotion of what's actually happening, even though she's not there. But just as an actor, it's just tapping into the great work that Caitlin was doing, and giving the camera and the story that moment of connection, whether it's truly possible or not.
And I think, Caitlin, for you, this obviously, I grew up in the 90s. And so I was living with reruns of Quantum Leap. Every summer, my brother and I would watch this show. But for you, like, as the show itself has the Scott Bakula connection, everyone thinks about it. But now the show has taken on a life of its own. And this new reboot has fans that are like coming to the series and the idea for the first time and enjoying this run as so many of us did back then. What has been kind of the most exciting part about being in this show and getting to go on that journey?
There's been so many exciting parts. It would be so hard I mean, everything from the human beings that I work with to the guests. I mean, to the fact that I now get to brag to the entire world that they had to cast Superman as my dad. You understand how much crap I have talked? But to answer that question seriously, the gift of this show is the intergenerational possibilities, that you have the old fans who were wonderful fans. And, I know there was some heartbreak that Dean has passed and that Scott is not part of this, but that they have loved the show and let us grow and stuck with us, and that the show has brought on new life. And I think that's the point, right? The point isn't just to have a show for the original fans, although they are always in our hearts and first of our minds. But the point of a Quantum Leap is to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, and quite literally time goes on. And so we have to encompass new viewers, new people, and maybe they'll get to understand something about the original viewers and what drew them in and what this show meant to them. And the original viewers can understand something about a younger generation that's also trying to do their best to figure it out. I hope, just like this scene between Addison and her father, you get maybe two distinct generations who get to cross over and understand something about each other through this show. And I hope and I dream that's what this can do.
Yeah, and Caitlin, I'm really glad you brought up Superman, because this is a very full circle moment for me. Brandon, pre-pandemic, I met you at AOL Build, and I said I went to the Teen Choice Awards as a teenager in a shirt I had ironed on that said that I wanted to meet you. You were not confirmed to be there. No one said that I was going to meet Brandon Routh, but little teenage me was like, I'm not ironing something, go to the Teen Choice Awards. And so I called my brother yesterday and was like, guess who I'm talking to tomorrow? And he was like, who? I was like, Superman. And he went, didn't you already meet Brandon Routh? I was like, thank you for knowing that I was referring to Brandon Routh as
Amazing.
I said it. But
where's the shirt?
Oh, I think I lost it to the sands of time because it was bad. I ironed it on myself as like a 13. So there was like, I think a chunk of your face was missing, and I just still wore it. I was committed. I was like, I'm going in this shirt.
I love that.
But yeah, so I hope you talk to James Gunn and become Superman in the DCU again.
Thank you.
But thank you guys so much for talking with me. Quantum Leap is such a good show, and so I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rachel, and lovely to see you again. And you didn't have to, make a special shirt to
I
to
didn't
make it happen
wear a
this time.
special shirt.
You just did all the other work to be in this
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, I built myself up.
Kudos to
as the
you.
shirt.
As the
Thank you.
shirt,
I
yeah.
appreciate it. Bye.